Let us explore how fighting anxiety could be a losing battle. Come on, machine, don't fail me now. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. The question begins, trouble remaining calm with anxiety sensations. And the question elaborates, I have a history of anxiety and insomnia, and I often go through my day feeling anxious about having a sensation of tightness in my throat. So let's stop right there. That is perfectly natural. We evolve the capacity to feel anxiety to keep us alive. Our counterparts who did not evolve a capacity to experience anxiety did not live long enough to pass on their genetic information. Sad but true. So being anxious about anything pertaining to our throat is healthy. That is why people who are choking to death don't get bored, yawn, and fall asleep. I then start having thoughts like, I won't be able to sleep tonight because I can't get rid of the tightness in the throat. And then I end up not sleeping at all night. Oopsie. Due to the anxiety over not sleeping. So I become scared of going to sleep, and the cycle continues. This bears closer examination. In science, there's an important, philosophy teaches us that it's a mistake to equate correlation with causation. Just because we are anxious that X, whatever X might be, will prevent us from falling asleep, and then we can't fall asleep, doesn't mean the first event caused the second. This is important. That's correlation, but it does not guarantee causation. Allow me to elaborate. As children, we are prone to magical thinking, right? And we are scared that somehow everything is our fault. Mom and dad are fighting. I didn't do well enough on my spelling test, right? Or mom and dad are getting divorced. It must be because I'm such a bad kid. That's illogical. But try telling that to a kid. We are prone to magical thinking. We are prone to confusing correlation with causation. There might have been a time in the Paleolithic era where that kept us alive. Well, if George died grabbing his throat and swelling after eating that little teeny red berry, we don't know if it was causation, but we're not going to gamble it, and we're going to stick with correlation. There were times when that kept us alive. But keeping us alive is not the same as helping us thrive. Please forgive the rhyme. So there are a lot of people whose paycheck depends on you thinking the worst about yourself and then taking their pharmaceuticals or having talk therapy. And there's nothing wrong with good talk therapy. But there's no way to prove a self-fulfilling prophecy. We must be wary of those who play fast and loose with the truth, for they are seldom an asset in our life, although they are often a horse's ass. Let us continue. Fear of being afraid at night and not sleeping. I think that was a poor edit on my part. During meditation, I don't know if it is better to watch and observe these sensations or simply acknowledge them and try to focus on other things such as breathing or body scanning. So I'm going to explore that from a neuroscience point of view in just a few moments. I'm trying to learn to remain balanced towards these physical symptoms of this anxiety. You know, tightness in throat, lying in bed with heart pounding. So I'm going to work blue for a moment. Imagine a poor fellow with erectile dysfunction, and his strategy is to stand there naked and scream at his penis as if he was a Paris Island drill instructor, and just scream at his penis to stand erect. I don't think that would work. Similarly, just choosing to have a balanced attitude towards scary, legitimately frightening phenomena is going to be a winning strategy for you. Now, that doesn't mean you don't get full points for trying, but we've got to get you some better strategies, and I would like to jump right into that now. So let's begin with some broad brushstrokes. That sounds like an off-color joke my mom would tell. Rest in peace. So, one moment, if you please. I'm going to do a bit of the old cut and paste. Thank you for your patience. This link, now this is a dead link. You can't click it because it's on the screen right now, but there's a sister link just like this in the description area below the video or below the live stream. And this is a free database for people whose professional focus is neurodivergence. In the past decade or so, there's been a trend to get away from looking at anxiety as an isolated event and instead looking at it as a small part of a larger order system. Taking a systems approach to anxiety is much more successful than just looking at it as an isolated phenomena. This is important. Speak to a physicist or speak to a neuroscientist, and they will both tell you the same thing. There is no free will. Everything is the result of conditions and actions that have come before it. Things that are older than us as individuals, things that are older than us as a species, things that are older than Earth as a planet. And in harmony with that, in harmony with that, the tendency to say that anxiety typically is a symptom of a larger order problem has more success. Now, these people, what they'll probably do is ask you to do an evaluation first. It's a pain in the ass. It's no fun. You're filling out a questionnaire that's digging up things that you had buried decades ago. But it's worth it. Because if they can put large puzzle pieces together, it can help you to make sense of things. Now, You might go through these evaluations and they might give you a referral someplace else. And that, although inconvenient, is the sign of an ethical psychologist. An ethical psychologist is going to stay in their wheelhouse, and they will send you to someone for whom your needs are their specialty. Don't waste time with a jack of all trades because they are a master of none. Now, enough of that. Now I'm going to insult your intelligence even further with lifestyle therapies. This is, once again, we're doing the due diligence before getting down to brass tacks. They say in medical school, if you hear a stampede, think horses, not zebras. So that's an example of Occam's razor. It's not always 100% true, but it's often true. So it could be a good place to start. So here is a bunch of lifestyle therapies. Practice sleep hygiene, which, so here's an example of sleep hygiene for my fellow insomniacs. Once you're awake in bed, once, we've lie down in bed in your favorite position and sleep isn't coming, get your ass out of bed. Go to the couch. Sit on the couch. Read a novel. I like reading a novel on my phone because I have a black background and white letters and I have a free Kindle app, blah, blah, blah. But I read a novel on my phone and with my right eye closed, my left eye open, and that helps to tire me out. And maybe I've had some fizzy water and I'm getting myself comfortable. So once I feel a little bit physically tired, then I go to bed. And I have a whole strategy for bed. I use very specific meditations, not for enlightenment, but to exhaust my brain. Things like counting backwards from 30 to 0. Things like working specifically with my earth element. But in other words, using what sleep hygiene tools you possess. Knowing when it's time to get out of bed and sit on the couch. Now, having done that, there are other things too. Getting enough fresh air, sunshine, exercise, these things are vital. Eating a whole food, plant-based diet can help. You'd be surprised how many psychological symptoms are due to physiological disorders. Physiological disorders like gut dysbiosis or systemic inflammation. These are big deals. Recreate. Do things that make you happy and that are fun. And do them with people that are friends. And if you can't find friends, then at least acquaintances who share the same interests and at least treat you decently. I feel like I'm hearing some feedback. Anyway, let's continue. So these are rudimentary lifestyle things that might help. Now let's get more interesting. Let's look at the neuroscience of meditation. Now I got to warn you. I got to give you the bad teacher alert. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything's sex. Well, what could that look like? Well, that can look like yang thinking. Being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Not only doing that, but thinking it's awesome. And not only thinking it's awesome, but shitting all over yin thinking. Shitting all over being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. And so these rigid and controlling people, often with the best of intentions, give some really crummy advice. Advice like, hey man, what you got to do is actively focus and actively analyze. Dude, the only way to actively focus is to rely upon areas of our brain such as the medial prefrontal cortex. And the only way to analyze is to rely upon other regions of our brain such as the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Doing this will trigger your amygdala. The amygdala, this lumpy thing here that kind of looks like a large P, the amygdala is the seat of aggression and anxiety. So here's the tragedy. Actively focusing and actively analyzing in the name of peace is only going to exacerbate your anxiety. I apologize for being the bearer of bad news. But there's some good news, and here's the good news. The prefrontal cortex and the amygdala are not the only components of your central nervous system. Yay! The Buddha taught an eightfold path. The seventh fold of the Buddha's eightfold path is mindfulness. The most efficient way to practice authentic mindfulness is so ridiculously easy. It's comprised of simply, silently, mentally, and passively reciting the demonstrative pronoun this during the inhalation. Well, what's so special about that? I'll tell you. It induces the where's my cursor? It induces the cerebral cortex to cooperate with the sympathetic nervous system. This sympathetic nervous system is ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. The sympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us perceive in a very special way, to help us perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. Oh, maybe my phone. That's what I'm hearing over here. I don't know what it is. Let's continue. This vulnerability is illustrated with this tantric art depicting these two individuals as naked. This nudity is a metaphor for vulnerability. So we're wired to perceive sight, sound, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. What are we to do with these things? Simple. We are to meditate. But how are we going to do that? Easy. We silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. This induces the cerebral cortex to cooperate with our parasympathetic nervous system. This parasympathetic nervous system is found in the lower third and the upper third of that same spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. So if people tell you to focus on your breath or methodically label what you're experiencing, they're giving you advice that's going to exacerbate your anxiety. But when we use this ridiculously, insultingly easy method of this ease, it works like a charm. The first benefit of performing this is it calms our amygdala. The second benefit of this, I should mention there's something else. This whole idea of physically relaxing and mentally releasing in harmony with our exhalation is what the Tibetans refer to by the phrase relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. And it is illustrated in tantric art by the entities in tantric art being depicted as being translucent and as non-graspable as a rainbow. The second benefit of practicing this perceiving and releasing is that it stimulates our anterior cingulate gyrus, which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. This is why the late Tulku Thondup insisted that the highest love is not the product of active focusing or active analysis, but instead is the effortless byproduct, the spontaneous and uncontrived byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. We go back to this illustration. That is why these tantric entities are, this archetype, are depicted as beautiful, as a reflection of the love, which is the effortless byproduct of practice. And then we come to the third benefit, which is just a chef's kiss. Check this out. The more we practice perceiving and releasing, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds will flow with the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity. This is what some people call being in the zone or going with the flow. It's like instead of being like the Big Lebowski, we're like the dude. That's the goal. And that's illustrated again in this piece, in this archetype. The stability with which this fellow, the color of the sky, sits represents centeredness. The abandon with which she, who is the color of a cloud, sports reminds us of spontaneity. You put them together, you don't get scattered spontaneity, you get centered spontaneity, which is pretty cool. And now we come to the fourth thing I want to mention tonight, and that's brisk walking meditation. If you are so jittery, so anxious, so wound up that you are ready to make the jump to warp space without a vessel, then brisk walking meditation is your friend. It's simple. You don't need any equipment other than your clothes and your shoes. Go for a walk around your block, a brisk walk around your block. Because it's around your block, you won't get lost. You won't walk into traffic, which is good. Do it for 20 or 40 or 60 minutes, at least once every 12 hours or so. If you're really enthusiastic, you could do it 3 times a day, the second time being on your lunch break. You could do it before work, lunch break, and after work. Woo, I tell you, your doctor will love you for this. Assuming, of course, your doctor gives you, a thumbs up. Now, the only proviso is this. When you're doing walking meditation, because you want to, you'll be breathing heavier during brisk walking meditation than you will when you're sitting, obviously. So during brisk walking meditation, instead of using the word this, you'll want to use the word perceiving. And instead of using the word ease, you'll want to use the word releasing. So as you're breathing, as you're briskly walking, when you notice yourself inhaling, recite perceiving. And when you're briskly walking, as you notice yourself exhaling, recite releasing. These are not affirmations, because affirmations are just wishful thinking. My name is Elmer J. Fed. I own a mansion and a yacht. We're labeling processes that are already occurring latent in the background. By labeling those things, they're coming to the foreground, and instead of our cerebral cortex ignoring it or trying to undermine it, it cannot help but start to cooperate, which is like mother's milk. An additional benefit of brisk walking meditation is it acts like a massage for a hippocampus. A hippocampus basically acts like the doorman for long-term memory. The basic neurological definition of trauma is any past event that is not in long-term storage. If a past event is in short-term storage, the body is going to experience it as happening now. It's not a question of psychology. It's not a question of positive mental thinking. It's not a question of discipline. It's not a question of logic. It's a question of our physiology. Now, Humans have been performing walkabouts, long walks to cope with loss since time immemorial. This really works. And if you want, you can rent, if you can find it, a copy of Crocodile Dundee. Maybe you can find it on YouTube or on Roku or something like that. But it explores that, the whole idea of after an emotional loss, someone goes on a walkabout and they process what's going on. So this is explored in Dr. Tom Hartman's Walking, Your Blues Away. You can find this online. This basically book is basically just explained to you what I explained to you, but they take a longer time. Dr. Tom does a very good job of exploring Buddhist walking meditation through the lens of neuroscience. If you apply these things, they could help. Now, if you want, you're welcome to meditate with me tonight. After approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. And now, let us play with the latest iteration of All Good One's Easy Meditation. If you're brave, remember junior high and PE class and how the guy with the pot belly and the whistle would have us first warm up and then do our workout and then cool down. We're going to do something very similar to that right now. The view of reality that supports letting go is the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Therefore, we're going to use Mahayoga's Wisdom Warm-Up, which kind of sounds weird, doesn't it? Let's begin by chanting the disclaimer. Rather than indulge or controlling tendencies with all these of active visualization, emotion, magic, and belief, we could just recite these wise words in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors for statements literal, and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance explaining metaphors as similes. I'm not sure why my voice is a little weak tonight, so we'll see how long I'm able to hang out with you. The Buddha was keen on the four bases of mindfulness, the circumstantial, the physical, the interpersonal, and the mental. We're going to begin with the circumstantial. Please chant with me. By the way, before we start chanting, false start alert. Notice the word may. This is not a prayer. We are simply playing with words in an effort to guide our intention. That's it. May we see how all circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. So we're using the verb melt as a metaphor of impermanence, and we're using the verb absorb as a metaphor of interdependence. And ironically enough, just as you might have heard that sometimes we fight fire with fire, ironically, we're going to use self-centeredness, to transcend self-centeredness. How funny is that? So we're going to take all these words and squeeze them down into just 6 syllables that we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. May we feel how all bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent. I'm sorry, my voice is really going away. I think it's because I did some Buddha bowing outside and I got some dust in my throat. So let's just move ahead straight to the silent meditation. We now turn to the 7th and 8th folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, Hatha Yoga's mindfulness and meditation, following the instructions we explored during the opening bit, during the lesson. So let us rest the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger. Doing so, as we do so, as we relax into our exhalation, whatever experience of our lower abdomen could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a syllable ah comprised only of green light. Now let us rest the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger upon the tip of our left ring finger. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever awareness we might have of our navel region could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a yellow syllable, as a syllable throng comprised only of gold light. If you are prone to anxiety, this is the mudra you want to emphasize. The union between the great knuckle of your right ring finger and the tip of your left ring finger. If you're prone to anxiety, you definitely want to skip the next mudra, which is balancing or resting the great knuckle at the base of your right middle finger, the tip of your left middle finger. If you're prone to anxiety, please do not do this. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever awareness of our chest we might have experienced during our previous inhalation, begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a syllable hum comprised only of blue light. Let us rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger. This is a wonderful mudra for getting out of our body. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever awareness of our scalp we might have experienced during our previous inhalation, begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a syllable comprised only of white light. I apologize for tonight's practice being truncated, but I can only do what I can only do. So let us silently wish that all beings everywhere experienced enlightenment. With the metaphoric phrase, let me rephrase this. Let us lovingly wish that all beings' minds were as enlightened as a Buddha's mind, symbolized by a one-syllable mantra or bija. Let us lovingly wish that all beings master the love demonstrated in a Buddha, the way a Buddha communicates, and is symbolized by a mantra. Let us lovingly wish that all beings everywhere enjoyed the health depicted in Buddhist statuary of an archetype of enlightenment. Let us lovingly wish that all beings everywhere enjoyed circumstantial good fortune depicted in Buddhist paintings. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 1/4 hours, I would very much like to return to tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.